Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I welcome you to this presser, which will be addressed by the President of the MTCT, the Honorable Dr. Khupe. This presser is about the current developments in our party, the MTCT. Here with me, I have the Harare Provincial Chairperson, Vamas Vananga, on my right, followed by a member of our national executive, the Honorable Mwonzora. In my far right, I have one of the directors in the MTCT presidency, Madam Adelis Futa, and then of course the Iron Lady, the leader of the MTCT, the Honorable Dr. Khupe. So I'm going to invite the President, Dr. Khupe, to present his statement. Afterwards, we will then entertain questions that the leadership will be able to answer to. Madam President, over to you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank you, members of the media, for coming to our press conference. And without wasting much of the time, I'll go straight into the issues that we have asked you to come and hear. On the 21st of January 2022, a split of the Movement for Democratic Change Tsvangirai occurred. This was as a result of constitutional transgressions. Douglas Mwonzora has for times without number violated the constitution of the party, whereas Article 9.1.2a enjoins the president to uphold and defend the party's constitution. It therefore follows that the president cannot be at the center of constitutional transgressions. At the same time, Douglas Mwonzora declared that he is now leader of MDC Alliance Party. This is evidence that now we have two parties, MDCT and MDC Alliance Party, hence the split. It was in this vein that I then wrote letters to the Speaker of Parliament and the Minister of Justice on the 24th of January 2022, informing both institutions that the MDCT party had split into two formations, one led by Dr. Zanu-PF, who is also the leader of the opposition in the National Assembly, and one led by Douglas Mwonzora, leader of the opposition in the Senate and president of the MDC Alliance Party. I appealed to the Speaker of Parliament and the Minister of Justice and Legal and Parliamentary Affairs to treat both formations equally and exercise impartiality. However, to my surprise, on the 26th of January 2022, I received a letter from the Speaker of Parliament through a courier, FedEx, which was delivered to my house in Bulawayo, together with my colleague Nomvulamvuni, to the effect that we had been recalled and we were no longer members of Parliament. I have never heard in the history of Parliament a member being recalled through a letter sent to their home by FedEx at a time when Parliament is not in session. Parliament will be resuming in a fortnight, and you shudder to think why the Speaker of Parliament was in such a hurry to recall me and my colleague through a letter he wrote while sitting in his office and sending it through FedEx. That is unprocedural. My understanding of parliamentary operations is that the Speaker derives his powers from the mace when he is sitting on his chair in the House of Assembly, in the presence of sitting members of Parliament, because the mace is the symbol of authority of the House and the Speaker of Parliament. Without the mace, the House cannot sit and it cannot make laws. On the 24th of January 2022, the Speaker of Parliament received two letters, one from my party and the other from Mwonzora's party. He then decided to ignore my party's letter and took immediate action on Mwonzora's party's letter, of which he subsequently wrote recall letters to us. My letter was reconciliatory because I was pleading with the Speaker of Parliament to exercise impartiality and treat the two parties fairly, whereas Mwonzora's letter was vindictive because he was asking the Speaker of Parliament to recall Honorable Mwonzora and myself. Douglas Mwonzora is now president of MDC Alliance Party, whereas Honorable Nguni and myself are members of MDC Tea Party. It boggles the mind how a leader of another political party can recall members of another party. For example, MDC Tea Party cannot recall members of PDP, neither can they recall members of Zanu-PF. To make matters worse, the Speaker of Parliament in the recall letter said, I quote, I must advise that on the 24th of January 2022, I received a notice of recall in terms of section 129(1)(k) of the Constitution. Accordingly, I must advise that by virtue of section 129(1)(k) of the Constitution, you have ceased to be a member of the National Assembly. And my question is, which party? Because the Speaker did not mention the name of the party which gave these notices. Previously, there are members of Parliament who were recalled because they were accused of being members of MDC Alliance. On the contrary, Mwonzora made a public announcement to the effect that he had now formed a new party that is contesting in the upcoming by-elections in March under the MDC Alliance banner. Whereas this is the reason why other MPs were recalled. It was precisely because they belonged to MDC Alliance and not MDCT. Hence the reason why he has expelled himself from the party in terms of the MDCT Constitution, Article 5.10.8. Therefore, Douglas Mwonzora has no longer stand of recalling a member of MDCT because he is now a member and the leader of MDC Alliance Party. This clearly demonstrates the bias, impartiality, and inconsistency by the Speaker of Parliament. Splits in the movement for democratic change are not a new phenomenon. The first split happened in 2005 between Gibson Spanda, the late Gibson Spanda, Vice President, and the late Morgan Tsvangirai, President. Parliament recognized and respected both formations and accepted the status quo. Both formations were allowed to coexist, and they coexisted until the end of their term of office in 2008. This is where my issue of victimization and discrimination is derived from. The two men split in 2005. They were allowed to coexist by this same institution. A woman and a man have split in 2022. That is Khupe and Douglas Mwonzora. The Speaker of Parliament decides to favor Douglas Mwonzora over me without even considering calling both parties to the table for a discussion. Truly speaking, this is glaring evidence of inequality, discrimination, and victimization. There is no provision in the standing rules and orders where the Speaker of Parliament is supposed to supervise political parties and adjudicate where there are disputes. The Speaker of Parliament in this instance received two letters on the same day and almost at the same time. But alas, he decided on which formation was legitimate. I wonder where he got those powers from. The Speaker of Parliament knew very well that Mwonzora had declared that he was now leader of the MDC Alliance Party and that he was going to participate in the by-elections under the MDC Alliance Party. There is evidence for all to see because his candidates for the March 26, 2022 by-elections have registered under MDC Alliance Party. This is the same party whose MPs were recalled from Parliament because they had ceased to be members of MDCT. The Speaker of Parliament, in his wisdom, disregarded that and decided to take sides with another man. As a woman, I strongly feel victimized and discriminated against at the highest level. As if that was not enough, the Minister of Justice equally decided that the political party's grant will go to Mwonzora. Again, I wonder where the Minister of Justice derives his powers from to decide on which formation is legitimate, as I also wrote a letter to him advising him on the new developments in the party and pleaded with him to treat both formations in a fair and just manner. In 2014, the MDCT split again, and this time it was between the late Morgan Tsvangirai and the late Morgan Tsvangirai, the president, and Tendai Biti, the Secretary General. Political parties' funds were split between the two formations. In 2022, the same NDCT party has split between Khupe, Deputy President, and Douglas Mwonzora, President. But the sad reality is that the Minister of Justice wants to give the full amount to Mwonzora, and one shudders to think why. When it was Morgan Tsvangirai and Tendai Biti, the money was divided into two. But this time around, because it is Khupe, a woman, and Mwonzora, a man, the Minister of Justice wants to give the full amount to Mwonzora. Surely, what can one call this other than seeing it as unjustified inequality and unfair practice? In these two instances, I have been discriminated against because I am a woman. It is very clear that when it comes to my case, there is selective application of rules and regulations. When it was Morgan Tsvangirai and Gibson Sibanda, they were both respected and treated with impartiality. Again, when it was Tendai Biti and Morgan Tsvangirai, they were respected and treated with impartiality. This time around, it is Khupe and Douglas Mwonzora, and both the Speaker of Parliament and the Minister of Justice have decided to side with the other man, Mwonzora, for no apparent reason. In my view, these institutions, namely the executive and the legislature, are not exercising impartiality and are colluding against me with regards to this matter. As women in the political arena in this country, we have been victimized and discriminated against for times without number. And time has come for women to rise and say this far and no further. Our voices are being silenced and we are being disempowered. I met with women's organizations to tell them our story of victimization and discrimination just because of our gender. I am being suffocated and I can't breathe. At the same time, I have written to the United Nations Secretary General, H.E. Antonio Guterres, the United Nations Executive Director, Dr. Sima Sami Bahos, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, H.E. Michelle Bachelet, the Interparliamentary Union President, Honorable Duarte Pacheco, the Pan-African Parliament, and Madam Bineta Diop, the Special Envoy of the Chairperson of the African Union Commission on Women, Peace and Security, so that they see the amount of victimization and discrimination against women by the executive and by the legislature. I am therefore calling upon the executive to stop discrimination against women. In the same token, I am calling upon the legislature to stop discrimination against women. I am saying this with a heart which is bleeding because I am a victim of discrimination by these pillars of the state. Women and men must be treated with dignity, respect, and equally, because we are equal in the eyes of the Lord, and we must therefore be equal in the eyes of the law. I would like to conclude by calling on women's organizations and women at large to rise and fight with me this deadly pandemic called victimization and discrimination against women. I am going to fight to the finish, and I'm going to fight a discrimination against women in politics with the last drop of my tears. I'm going to fight discrimination against women with the last drop of my sweat. I'm going to fight discrimination against women with the last drop of my blood. Not just for myself, but for young women who should not be intimidated, but be inspired to commit without shame in the politics of this country and help shape their destinies. I raise my case.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Members of the media, the floor is now open for questions. I will kindly request that you restrict yourselves to the issues raised by Dr. Khupe. If you want to raise other issues, we will arrange one-on-one sessions with all of you. So if you want to ask a question, kindly introduce yourself, your name, the media outlet that you're coming from, and just one short question. Say. You are said, yeah, why?
Thank you. My name is Gibson Gadino. I'm from the Herald. So from your presentation, you are saying you wrote a reconciliatory letter to the Speaker of Parliament. Can you not reconcile with the Douglas Mwonzora? And as an addition to that, you were quoted at one point in the media saying, let's be honest, guys. I'm taking this verbatim. Let's be honest, guys. We're in politics because we want money. From this presentation you gave, is it because of the money that you want to sustain the you made previous in 2017 when you were saying we're in politics because of money?
I would request you to finish what I said, the part two. Money to pay school fees for our children. Money to pay for our health needs, money to pay for our water and sanitation, money to buy our homes, money to have a better life. That's exactly what I said.
Sorry. You said one question, the media house. Another question? Dara, please say.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Khupe, for coming through this presser. I just wanted to find out from you, Madam Khupe, the same issues that you are raising here are the same issues that were raised by Nelson Chamisa and company when they were accusing you of having contested against the MDC Alliance and then recalling them without just cause. And they also argued that the Speaker should not be given power unto himself to decide on such disputes. But you were silent at that time because it was benefiting you. Do you think what the Speaker did in the first instance is as unjust as you are arguing today?
Yes. I want us to be factual when we're dealing with this matter. You know what happened after the demise of Dr. Morgan Richard Tsvangirai. When the Supreme Court ruled in March, they ruled based on what our Constitution says. And the Supreme Court said, can you please go back and do what you were supposed to do after the death of Morgan Tsvangirai? And what was supposed to be done is that I was supposed to act and then call for an extraordinary Congress. Did that happen? No, it didn't happen. So what the Supreme Court basically said is that go back and do what you were supposed to do. What it meant was that I became the acting president of MDCT party. So I don't think that what I did then was unjust, because remember I was recalled in 2018 as well. And if you tell me that it was unjust, it was just, then I would respond to you. But for me, I have never done things which are unfair and unjust. Whatever I have done is based on the MDCT constitution. Unless if you are telling me that no, you are not supposed to follow the MDC constitution, you are supposed to do things your own way. But I will not do that. I am one person who has always stuck to principle. I will always stick to our MDCT constitution and do things which are enshrined in that constitution.
Any other question? Yes, sir.
The land for the 263 tax. Recently, Senator Mwonzora accused you of working hand in hand with members of the Generation 40 and some lawyers from the newly formed Unprocedural party. What's your comment on that?
This is Mwonzora's talk because he's trying to gain sympathy from Zanu-PF. If he goes there and says Khupe is working with G40, is working with Chamisa, you know what happens. That is not true.
Any other question?
Just a quick follow-up on the...
Let's deal with those who are reporting in Shona and debate.
No, it's all right. You can ask.
Yeah, just a quick... You said that in your response that he's trying to gain sympathy. Is he a beneficiary of Zanu-PF in any way, from your knowledge?
I'm talking about what is happening right now, but how can you wake up and say I'm being advised by G40 and the other party? How do you do that?
Any other question?
Yeah, right.
VOA? Any VOA? Shona?
We can do it afterwards.
Maybe this week now, because we're at present in time.
Yeah, I want to know.
You have any question?
Yeah.
Okay. Say.
My name is Chawanda from ZBC. Madam Khupe, the split with the MDC, how do you rate yourself in terms of the political landscape at the moment?
As you know, that Mwonzora was in the MDC alliance. And when he left the MDC alliance, he came with not even a single soul. He came to MDCT and he found those people that were with me in 2018. So all the structures we see in MDCT are people who were with me in 2018. He does not have a single structure. As we speak right now, they were preparing for their Congress. They did not do a single branch, not even a single ward, no a district, no a province. They have got makeshift provinces, the ones that they wanted to use to rig, this Congress. Otherwise, they don't have a single soul. Watch the space on the 26th of March.
My follow-up question was, are there differences with Mr. Mwonzora irreconcilable? Can you not reconcile the two of you?
Mwonzora has now declared that he's a member of a new party, MDC Alliance. And we are MDCT. You know what they did? They are very vindictive. They've been doing, things, purporting that they've suspended me. I cannot be suspended by a member of another political party. So it is a bit difficult for now. For now, I think our focus is MDCT. We are focusing on our ordinary Congress. We are busy building branches, busy building wards, districts, and then provinces.
Are there times?
Yeah, my name is Yotam from the Red Times. Madam Khupe, you mentioned that you have approached the women's organizations. What was their answers, their responses?
We approached them and I told them our story, and it's up to them to see the action that they are going to be taking. But as you know, I've also written to all these other institutions, UN Women, UN Secretary General, human rights organizations, and so on and so forth. So we'll wait for their response.
Any other question? Say.
Thomas Matuku, freelance. Are you happy with the RICO clause? Seems like it's are you happy with the RICO clause?
I am not happy. I have never been happy with it. Even when it was introduced, no one was happy with it. Because it's not fair, to be quite honest with you.
Okay, any other questions? Say.
Robert Slimy. Madam Khupe, do you think you are going to get a favorable ruling if you go through the legal way in terms of how you were recalled and also that you did not receive part of the money that is due to you?
Let's wait for the courts and see how they rule. Because the one for the political parties' finances has been set for Thursday, for tomorrow, 10 o'clock. So we'll wait and see what the courts will say.
Any other question? If there are no other questions, thank you very much for coming. The attendance is good. Yeah, thank you.